It is not true that any former colonial power is interested in developing the country they colonized in Africa. Their only interest is stealing the wealth of the former colony. Those are the words of Emerson Mnangagwa, Zimbabwean president. Welcome to the Bold Analysis. My name is Kevin Oduor. Zimbabwe has banned exportation of lithium to Europe, saying that they're losing a whopping 1.7 billion euros from exporting lithium as a raw material. And in this episode, I want us to look at the potential of value addition of our raw materials here in Kenya as a way of achieving the industrialization dream, in reference to a move that has just come from Zimbabwe. If you're watching this video and you've not yet subscribed, I want to humbly request you to subscribe to our channel. We try our best to keep this very informative podcast here in Kenya. And if you want to know everything that is happening, and of course we want to give it an in-depth look. That's why you need to book some time to listen to this. I want you to listen to Emerson Mnangagwa. And he's so categorical on this. He's not blinking it, he's not mincing his words. This is a country that have been receiving sanctions one after the other. And the recent tour the recent US tour by the African heads of states under the US Leaders Summit, he was not invited. In fact, he was banned from attending the Zimbabwe and also Burkina Faso. And I know the one for Burkina Faso was because of violation of human rights. But of course, they've been going through this for some time. He's making a point that will give us a bearing to see whether there is something we need to pick from Robert Mugabe's successor.
It is not true that any former colonial power has interest or has any commitment to develop a former colony. No. But they have interest to continue to link themselves to the former colony in order to find more ways of stealing the wealth of the former colony in a more subtle manner. So we must educate our people, our young people, you yourselves, to be as sophisticated as themselves. We can't do the things that you young people can do. This is why we make sure we send you to school, you learn all the skills, all the technologies. That's what we must give access to our young generation.
The time has come to create our own industry. If we can create our own industry, we are going to create job opportunities for our young men and women who are learning away from this continent. They will not learn away and seek solution and seek green pasture in Europe and America and Asia, so they will remain here in the continent. I think always we say that Africa, we need to industrialize, but what do you expect after this statement? The West will continue to sanction Zimbabwe because always the West is using the sanction as a tactic to make sure that Africa must follow what they want. If you are not following what they want, it will be sanctions.
Guys, from that, it gives you, and of course, for us to create a very good comparison, I want us to, let me just take some time first and show you what is happening in Zimbabwe. So the situation is this. Did you know that 70% of batteries we use here in Kenya and even in Africa, used in cars, mobile phones, computers, and electronic devices, are made from lithium? Now, being Africa is a major consumer of the same, the irony here is that Zimbabwe is the largest exporter of the lithium to Europe. And so it's exported as raw material, processed, and resold back to us as batteries, as batteries in electronic devices. The other shocking fact is that Zimbabwe, being the largest exporter in Africa, has a potential of serving a fifth of the world's demand of that mineral. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to get the context there because it will give you a picture when we come back home and look at the Kenyan context. Now, Mnangagwa is now proposing that they establish their own companies in Zimbabwe so that instead of exporting lithium as a raw material, they process the batteries and sell themselves. So, still by the, just imagine, we've always been speaking about balancing between exports and import. If you export it as a raw material, it's at a lower cost. Now, if you do the processing and manufacturing and then resell it, you will sell it at a higher price than just selling the raw material. That is what Mnangagwa is talking about. And because of this, they've been suffering sanctions. When I was just doing this research, I saw another article that I think by a writer who was saying that because Europe, after immediately Zimbabwe made that announcement, Europe started to think about making sodium batteries. Look at it. They were even uncomfortable by the fact that Zimbabwe now wants to produce their own batteries. Africa is rich in iron, aluminium, copper, lithium, hydro, gold, silver, cobalt, oil, and abundance of sunshine for solar, fertile unspoiled land, and for agriculture. So we have the potential. Yes, all the building blocks for greatness are ours. Therefore, when we invest in us, we are going to get the best out of us. I want us to bring it home in Kenya. And to just make you understand, because my bearing here is this, we've been speaking about industrialization and manufacturing, but this aspect of minerals, I think it's somehow, it comes secondary to when we have a debate about industrialization. That's what I've realized. It has always not been at the center of the talk. But I want you to listen to Raila Odinga's speech. He made this speech, and I've decided to revert back to extract that speech during the launch of Manifesto. So he is the only presidential candidate, and I think for the first time, even if you compare both Azimio and Kenya Kwanza, Azimio got a point on this manufacturing, and they're the only ones that spoke about the minerals. I may also want to be challenged to explain for me who is the minister in terms of mining and what exactly Kenya Kwanza is doing. That's the front I want us to look at here. But before that, Raila Odinga's point will make more sense to this podcast.
You said now we want to go to proper industrialization. This country is very strategically situated on the eastern coast of Africa, on Indian Ocean seabed. It is therefore right to say that it can become a manufacturing hub for the region, Eastern Africa and Central Africa. So you said, you're not just going to come up with processing industries, processing agricultural produce, but primary manufacturing. Instead of importing steel, which we need in great amounts, as we're sitting under this dome here, all the frames here are steel frames. All the high-rise buildings that we have here are all supported by steel. The superhighway just behind us here, running from Mlolongo to Ayakiwe, it's all on steel, and most of it is imported into the country. We are going to make steel from iron ore, part of which we have in this country. the richest continent on earth, on planet Earth, in terms of raw materials. Africa exports most of the raw materials to industrial West and East. They import copper ore from DRC and process it and bring back copper products, copper sheets, copper wires and cables for our own use in our continent. They import bauxite from Guinea and Mauritania and bring back aluminium products to Africa.
Guys, there are not a lot of takeaways from that speech. And I challenge someone around Kenya Kwanza, if you watch this analysis and you can share it with someone to them, that we need to think, when we talk about manufacturing, the discussion should not be narrowed on multinationals only coming here to, take our raw materials and go with them. I once worked during my hustling days. I think that was back in 2015 during my long holidays. I used to work for a company. I think you work for a company in along Mombasa Road before Fike Kitengela. Let me not mention the name. And that company was manufacturing tanks. So when we were working there, there is something I used to know. So Babu, I used to realize that the raw material that we use in that company, especially in those companies, the raw materials we use used to come from abroad. In fact, they used to come from China. So you'll maybe on a Friday, sometime in the week, or when this raw material is not available, the work will stop. When it comes, your job is to carry them. I know people who have done those work, have interacted, been in that environment, to carry them, then go and keep them that state. So you realize I used to know that the key component that is used in that plant, that tank manufacturing plant, used to come from China. So you know what I realized? That they've realized they had a market for the water tanks here. Instead of exporting, importing them to sell, they used now to bring it, then sell it here. This is what is happening. That our raw materials are being extracted from here, from our soil, and after then, they are sold, they are exported abroad as raw materials without value addition. And they're then going to be resold. I've tried to capture some few exports that, just to show you on what exactly I'm talking about, some few exports we make and how they are sold back. Look at this table in your screen. Flowers, we export flowers to, that's part of that horticulture, flowers from Naivasha to Holland, or rather to Netherlands. Do you know that we buy perfumes in the shelves here back in the country that are made from those flowers that we are exporting? There is gold smuggling, and I want to call it smuggling because I don't think it's even selling. It's a very dark business. There is gold being smuggled from this country, sold abroad, only for us to even pay air tickets to go to Dubai to buy wedding rings. We then see them in terms of Olympic medals, money, and jewelry. Kindly, some apologies. Kayla is around, and nowadays she's a very grown-up girl, makes really good noise. And now she's just doing it so that she can get my attention. That's the beauty of kids. Pyrethrum. We export pyrethrum, and then it's processed and manufactured in Europe. Then here it is resold to us as insecticides in shampoos. Look at sodium in Lake Magadi. Sodium is an intermediary raw material used in manufacture of chemicals and pharmaceuticals. So there is, what I'm simply saying, just giving some few examples, and people who are also experts in that area, you can add more in the comment section. What I am simply saying here is this, that learning the lessons from Zimbabwe, we can rethink about the potential of our minerals. I think that's an area that is not well advanced. That's an area that we are not doing well. I don't even know Waziri who is in charge of mining. I don't know. So what do we need? Because I know there have been a discussion of we don't have the potential to exploit, we don't have this. Provide incentives so that, incentives and conducive environment so that our skilled labor, the young people of this country, this continent that are flying out for greener pastures, can find lucrative opportunities and potential to inject their expertise in our local manufacturing channels. Well, that's what we need to do. If there are many Kenyans and who are working abroad, I was just realizing the other day, I have subscribers at Team Dubai. Thank you very much, guy. I received a tip from you guys. I also need to mention Ben Adadewa. That is Team UK. And the Dubai, there was a guys who were working in Dubai. They were telling me that, Kevin, do you know that tea that is exported to Dubai, there's that which they're now segmented to level 1. Is it grade 1, grade 2, and grade 3? And grade 1 is very expensive. So can't we buy grade 1 here? Never know. Can't we process then sell processed tea? You never know. Those are the questions. So the young people that are working abroad, they have wameshapata knowledge. They've gathered the knowledge. They have known the technical know-how on how some of these things are done. So if we open our local manufacturing here and do a very well, in fact, let's create a labor supply chain so that the labor from diaspora can be channeled back in the country through in the local manufacturing channels so that we can gain from within. But the biggest challenge is we've always believed on the white companies for loans, but can't we do local capital sourcing to boost manufacturing? So far, we've seen companies being opened by, I don't want to say NGOs, but development partners, World Health Organization, government partnering to do manufacturing on vaccines. I think there is one that is supposed to be established, I think in Kisii. I think that was UK, and that is UK and Kenyan government. But we can do local sourcing here. We are talking about saving, we are talking about our banks here. We have the potential. If we can do local sourcing here and exploit that potential, we can resell to Africa and get our money. Negotiate for processing. That's why I insist on fish plant in Nyanza. I don't understand why fish is being extracted from the lake and has to be moved to Thika for processing before export. It doesn't get. There is I think there was also one on pineapple. So as we think, we should think about high prestige companies or other manufacturing. We should take the second level of manufacturing, not the simple ones of unga, juice. We should also think this direction, the direction that Zimbabwe is taking. Ladies and gentlemen, that's my take. Let's meet in the next analysis. And tell us, talk to us. I want to read in the comment section. What's happening in your country? Just give us an example of how much you are buying something there compared to here. Tell us so that we really keep this discussion going on.